Thanks, Frances, for joining us. We're really excited to have you. This is Frances Fairhead-Stanova from Green Century. Full disclosure, Green Century is also a sponsor of Nowhere Collective and our show Currency.
How to do impossible things. How to do impossible things. What does all of this really mean? Where to go when the prop woken up from the dream?
We're really grateful for your partnership, and what drew us to this conversation in particular is how your advocacy work inside global corporations intersects with our work building change at the community level. And so it feels like, for me, just two different vantage points with the same shared goal, which is why the work we've done so far together has been so fun. And so to bring it back to the theme of our show, and as a real lover of metaphors, I started to think about, like, how can I explain why we have you here and what we're going to talk about. And I see sort of Nowhere and Green Century as fish swimming in a very strong current. And there are these systems of capitalism, consumerism, and globalized economies. But our organizations are kind of like those cool flying fish who do this seemingly unnatural thing. They jump out of the water, they soar through the air for a moment, get a look around at what's possible, and then splash back down into the stream, creating a ripple where we land. So how we jump through the air, though, and what that splash looks like is a little different. So at Nowhere, I sort of see us as like this big fish kind of doing a big belly flop. We have sort of this dispersed effect. We're working with distributed workforce who are making change kind of one person at a time. And then Green Century's coming at it from the top of the water, precise landing point, creating an impact that goes a bit deeper. And you're working with the most powerful, influential institutions, corporations, and where that small point in the water actually can spread far and wide. So that's how I started to imagine this. So I'm curious, as like an intro for yourself, does that resonate with you? How does that land with the work you do personally and then also within Green Century?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me, Katy and Laura. And I think it's a great way to explain it. We focus our advocacy on large companies in order to create that ripple effect to other companies. And we work with our nonprofit owners and partners, including the PIRGs, so that top-down and bottom-up strategies can speak to each other. It's also an important way for us to keep in tune with where people really are on issues. And that helps us in our advocacy with companies because it's a way for us to understand what their customers want, which helps us build the business case. And the business case there is for environmental improvements. And so that ultimately helps us bring about change.
Oh, I love that. How did you come to this work? What's sort of your background and how did it get you to Green Century?
So my background is actually as an ESG analyst. I started off covering financial companies, and then I got a little bit frustrated, like focusing on how these people were manipulating interest rates and all these strange, very technical things that just didn't seem to apply to real life. And then I moved on to mining companies, which was really interesting. I loved that. But I wanted something that instead of evaluating how companies are doing and sending that research off to other people to use, I wanted to be able to actually talk to companies and try to make a difference and see more like where my work was going and what it was accomplishing. And that's why I wanted to do the advocacy work at Green Century.
What was sort of your inroads to Green Century? Did you seek them out? Did they find you?
You know, I was familiar with them and I knew the issues that they had worked on in the past. And I told the hiring manager, you know, what I'd be most excited to work on would be right to repair, plastics, and animal welfare. And she was like, fantastic, because that's what we need someone to do. So it was really perfect that the issues that were most important to me, because I felt like I really interacted with them in my everyday life, were the issues that I was going to work on. So,
Oh, I love that so much. Just
It's
like
so fun.
coincidentally, those were the three things you picked out.
Yeah.
Great. That aligns so well.
Yeah.
That's very fun.
So then one of our questions that we're curious about at Green Century, why do you have the advocacy as part of the organization? And what does that look like?
So the companies in our funds are chosen in part based on how they are already performing on the environment.
Mhm.
And that's really important, making sure that we're invested in responsible companies because it's important to our investors.
Mhm.
But in addition to that, we really see our advocacy work as setting us apart in a way that we can have a real impact. So even those companies that are in our funds because they are already performing better than others on sustainability have a lot of areas where they can improve. And that's why advocacy is so important to us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, it all weaves together. It's all part of it's really hard to like pull and silo all of the sections apart, right? It's all very much connected and together.
Yeah.
So I know you previewed a few of the things that you're talking about, but if you could share a little bit more of the issues that you're addressing with the advocacy work.
So the issues we engage on evolve based on the most pressing environmental issues and risks year to year. This year, we're engaging companies on right to repair, climate change, plastics, biodiversity, forest protection, and animal welfare. Some issues remain a focus for multiple years, but within those issues, we do update our focus.
Yeah, how what's the reception of these companies when you come to them? What does that conversation look like? Are they open to having that conversation?
Um, so basically, the way we see it is we are pointing out a risk to them, right? So, um, we are paying a lot of attention to what's happening on the ground, what NGOs are working on, what our nonprofit owners are working on, and what regulation is coming through. And then in a lot of what we do is identifying risks for the company. So if there is a law about making claims about recyclable packaging, which there is, then we speak to the company about this. We say, this is a risk we've identified. What are you planning to do about it? And often the company, they always kind of take some time to evaluate it on their own, right? They're not going to
Mhm.
take what we say, which is good. We're not the experts on their company. They are. But then oftentimes we've had them come back and say, yeah, actually, we looked into this ourselves and it's not worth it. Like what we get from making that claim is not worth putting that risk of potentially the claim being misleading to consumers.
Huh.
Um, that is not always the response, but that is, we've had that response recently because when regulation is coming, it's no there's no getting away from it. You have to comply.
Yeah. Is there enough enforcement on that side? The compliance with the claims they make? Do you feel like there's enough of that happening that companies feel uh, the weight of that?
Um, I think it varies very much issue by issue,
Okay.
and sometimes things take time.
Mhm.
There might be a certain law, but it takes time for the law to come into the books, and then s some of these recent laws that we're talking about with, claims about recyclability, you don't get a fine for it, but it's like someone can sue you for that,
Hmm.
right? And, even though it takes time, like, is it worth it to be sued and to have that reputational damage? So, sometimes it definitely takes time, but at the end of the day, companies need to be ahead of that regardless of how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I hadn't really thought about it in that way. I didn't realize that's like kind of the framing that you would position it for them and why they would do it. It's not just like out of the goodness of their hearts.
Yeah, I mean, we are investors at the end
Mhm.
of the day. So, we're investors that care about the environment, but we we're really focusing on that business case.
Yeah. Okay.
I was going to say, I love the proactive de risking and like you all having the insight and to say, these are the things coming up. Like, how do you want to think about it? And it does land on the founder or that business owner to decide like where do they sit, where is their perspective. But like what a great organization to be able to have that to help them think of through things ahead of time before it's already there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about right to repair? I mean, that piece in particular, as I started to learn more about Green Century in, doing events together, that stuck out to me. And I was like, wow, that piece definitely feels very aligned with the Nowhere community, sort of keeping things in circulation for longer. And what are some of the ways that we can create legislation to make sure that that's happening? We're doing it very nitty gritty style, like transforming trash into one-of-a-kind goods. But from a large scale perspective, right to repair just started to make a lot of sense to me. So can you talk a little bit more about that and the right to repair policy, but also how has that played out with Green Century and like a win that you've had in that way?
Yeah, sure. So our right to repair work, it's really an umbrella. So it's right to repair and it's designed to last. And the goal for both of these is giving people the ability to keep using the things that they buy, to create less waste and protect the environment. So we advocate for designing products to last and for designing products to be fixable.
Hmm.
Which also means giving individuals and independent repair shops the resources that they need in order to fix their own goods or goods for consumers. And one win that we're really proud of is a recent win with Microsoft. So Microsoft previously announced that it would end support for Windows 10 at the end of this year, 2025, and that everyone would have to start using Windows 11. But the problem there was that Windows 11 can only be used on more recent computers that have certain minimum requirements. And that was a really big problem because the switch to Windows 11 was estimated to create the junking of 400 million computers that would not be compatible with Windows 11. So a huge amount of e-waste and also financial hardship for people that are still happy, their computers are working for them and they don't want to replace them. So after filing a shareholder proposal and negotiating with the company, we managed to get them to offer the option of extended security support to all users for a small fee, which was really big because it would allow users to save money, avoid millions of working computers being junked. And then after we made this agreement with the company, we continued to work with them. And this year, they actually announced that all individual consumers could get a year of security updates for free. So waiving the fee for individual consumers.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. What was the switch? Why did they move from charging a fee to making it free?
I think it was a result of, pressure from lots of different sides. So it wasn't just us speaking to Microsoft. Um, we had the agreement with them, but also there are many organizations that were reporting on this and the amount of e-waste that was going to be created.
Yeah.
And then I think from a business case, they realized that there were a lot of people still using Windows 10.
Yeah.
And so they realized they needed to give those people another year.
Wow. Okay. I know I'm imagining in my daughter's school, they have Chromebooks for everybody. And, right now there's just so little funding for these schools to get new computers. And it's falling on the parents to supplement those funds. And it made me think like, oh, I'm sure it's probably a lot of schools who are using these types of technology and, can't imagine having to like just ditch a bunch of those when they're still functioning. So just like really thank you. I mean, Chromebooks aren't Microsoft, so
Yeah.
whatever, but
Yeah.
but it just like starts to really come to hit home for me in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from the consumer side, and it's resonating now. My parents have Microsoft, and they were nervous at cybersecurity issues, and they were going to get a new computer simply because of that. And
Wow.
it's so nice, especially like seniors already have a little bit of issues sometimes with technology and learning the new thing. And when it's being forced that they have to, specifically from a security perspective, I think certainly perks up your ears to listen more. And at the same time, too, then some just don't have the capacity or means to purchase something new. And then they're just kind of then at risk. So it
Yeah.
seems like, too, from a PR perspective, it certainly benefits Microsoft as well to be like, hey, we're not just saying tough luck to you all. We're saying we're here to work with you. But when you actually can say, how does that ripple down to the consumer and what that truly means and how our products are in hands, it is. That's a big deal.
We talked a little bit about like at the consumer level, just how does that work, giving them the resources and tools. Where does that come from? Like who's giving them the resources? What are these resources and who's sort of responsible for making sure that the repair is possible?
The right to repair legislation we were talking about, for electronic goods, I believe it's now in 8 states for electronic goods.
Oh,
It's hard to keep track.
yeah,
But what that means is that in those states, the company that is actually making these goods, they need to make repair manuals available to their consumers.
I see.
And if there are specific tools that are needed in order to repair something, they need to make those tools available as well.
Okay,
So the onus is on the company to
got
provide
it.
those things. But then it's like we're not living in 1800, right? If there's a repair manual available to someone in California, it means that people in other places can access it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting. I didn't realize that it was more like producer level responsibility, which you hear about like in plastics, the Producer Responsibility Act legislation stuff, like putting the onus on the companies now. It sort of didn't connect those two things, that this is a very similar approach.
Yeah, definitely. Like the law, the requirements are for those companies, and then it just gives the consumers more options, right?
Yeah.
Because if you bought a dishwasher and it breaks down, right? Maybe you are handy and you like fixing things, right? So then you can get a repair manual, you can try fix it yourself. But probably you're not, right? There's
Yeah.
not everyone wants to fix their own dishwasher. So then it just means that you have more options. You don't have to go to the repair shop that the company that created the dishwasher has decided is their preferred repair shop. You can go to any repair shop.
Yeah.
Anytime that there isn't a monopoly, it normally means that prices are lower, but then it's also just easier to get those services, right?
Mm.
Maybe you don't live near that repair shop, especially for people living in rural areas. That can be a big part of it. So it's not just that like every single person has to fix their own things. It's also just giving them more options.
Yeah. At my old house, we had a very old washer dryer in the basement, and it was, I don't know, it's probably 20 years old. And every time it broke down, we'd have a repair guy come over, and they'd inevitably be like, "Don't get rid of this thing. Like, we can get the pieces. Like these components, there's no electronics involved, and so all these mechanical pieces are repairable." And so we held on to that for as long as we lived there, for 12 years.
Yeah.
And so I just like that sort of mantra has always been in my head, and buying new appliances, like how many electronic components are involved here and how complicated does that get and how hard would it be to repair if it breaks down. So I do appreciate that there's a bit more push towards let's make sure things can be fixed and that people know
Yeah.
how.
Yeah, and I mean it's also something that I think we're busy, right? And
Yeah.
normally we only think about that when something breaks,
Yeah.
but we can actually think about it when we're buying things as
Yeah.
well. There's information out there on how repairable, especially for electronic goods. Like the PIRGs put out a report on a repairability scorecard every year. And then there's also IFixIt, for example, which also
Yeah.
repairability scorecards. So you can use that information when you're making your purchasing decisions so that then when it's broken, it's fixable. And it's not just your electronics, it's also like, you're buying clothes or anything, just like thinking about if something's going to be repairable and how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
You read my mind. Can you say that again? PIRGs? What is that? Where can we see like the resource of what might be a better appliance or whatnot to purchase?
Sure. So the PIRGs are the Public Interest Resource Group.
Okay.
Some of the PIRGs are nonprofit owners.
Mhm.
So there's like the US PIRG and then there's state PIRG. So on their website, they have a right to repair page.
Mm.
And there you can find it's called Failing the Fix report, specifically for computers and for cell phones.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I know you're in Boston area. Is
That's
that right? Okay. And we're based in Chicago, and we have like repair cafes. One group specifically, Community Glue, kind of pops up in different areas where you can bring random things, and it's just volunteer based. People, kind of tinkerers, will help you fix appliances or like your clothes or bikes. So I do love that there's like sort of the grassroots community style efforts to make sure that things stay in circulation. Are there any other resources? I mean, the PIRGs and the iFixIt, that's an awesome, just like accessible resource for anybody. Any other thoughts on what else people could be doing to kind of keep this in mind as they're moving through their day to day?
Yeah, so you can definitely see some resources on the PIRG's website.
Mhm.
I know there's a repair cafe website. So there you can see a calendar of repair cafes like all over the world. So that's one that you could look at. There's also one called Fixit Clinic. And then also the PIRG Right to Repair website. It also has a few petitions that you can sign on a national scale, as well as on a local scale. But there's the Warrior Right to Repair Act. So that is an act that's fighting for our military to be able to fix their stuff, help them do their work, and also save taxpayers billions of dollars because anytime there's monopoly, prices are higher, right? So
Wow.
that's our taxpayer money just being wasted because of the way the contracts are made with equipment suppliers. And then another one to support is there's a petition to tell the Federal Trade Commission to protect the right to repair on a national scale because we have repair laws in certain states, but we don't have something on a national scale.
Yeah.
So those are two national level things that you can do, but on the PIRG Right to Repair website, there's also specific state initiatives that people can support.
Amazing. Well, we'll get those links from you and we'll put them in the comments, underneath the video. What's been the most surprising thing for you as you've done this work?
I don't know if it would be the most surprising per se, but the thing that really sticks out that I think makes it such a great issue for us is that there's a lot of division right now, but I think right to repair is something that everyone can get behind, right? Everyone wants to save money. Everyone has to live on this earth, right? So we care about the impact of what we're buying. Like Texas, for example, became the first Republican state to pass right to repair legislation. So this is an issue that I think people can really get behind no matter what their political beliefs are. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to us that everyone cares about it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, thank you, Frances.
Thank you so much for your time. Greatly
Yeah, this was very fun.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie and Laura.